The internet didn't just react to this story, it completely spiraled into chaos the moment a single wave of commentary clips started spreading across every platform, pulling Joe Budden straight into the center of a growing media storm that nobody saw coming. What looked like a simple reaction at first quickly turned into a full-blown online explosion as old discussions, resurfaced controversies, and new interpretations all collided at once. Within hours, social media stopped functioning like normal conversation and started feeling like a battleground. Every clip was being re-edited, every quote was being reinterpreted, and every opinion was turning into fuel for a bigger argument. Suddenly, commentary around Aries spears and long-running media tensions connected to DJ Vlad became part of a much larger internet firestorm that no one could fully control or even fully understand. And just when people thought the situation was already at its peak, it escalated again. A second wave of reactions pulled in completely unexpected directions, even dragging in sports discussions involving Stefon Diggs, turning a commentary debate into a multi-industry chaos cycle that had everyone confused about where it even started. But here's the part that really shocked the internet. No one can agree on what actually triggered the explosion. Every platform is telling a different version of the story, every creator is adding their own angle, and every new clip only makes the situation more complicated. And now, millions of viewers are stuck refreshing their feeds, waiting for the next moment that could either calm everything down or push it completely over the edge. Because right now, one question is dominating the entire internet. Is this still just commentary, or has it already become something much bigger that nobody can control anymore? The moment that question hit the internet, everything shifted from discussion to full-blown obsession. Is this still just commentary, or has it already become something much bigger that nobody can control anymore? Because within minutes, the platforms didn't slow down, they accelerated. Clips involving Joe Budden were being re-uploaded faster than anyone could track. But this time, it wasn't just fans reacting casually. It was full-scale analysis mode. Every sentence, every pause, every facial expression was being studied like it held hidden meaning. Comment sections turned into debate arenas where users were arguing not just about what was said, but what it meant. And then the ripple effect began. Older commentary moments resurfaced involving Aries spears, suddenly being reconnected to completely unrelated discussions. Fans started building timelines that stretched across years, trying to connect dots that may or may not have ever been connected in the first place. Every platform had a different origin story for the chaos. Meanwhile, media clips tied to DJ Vlad began trending again, not because of new interviews, but because viewers started using old footage as context evidence for current arguments. The internet wasn't just reacting anymore, it was rewriting narratives in real time. And that's when the situation took its first major turn. A wave of reaction creators suddenly went live at the same time, each one trying to break down the situation from a different angle. One claimed it was media misinterpretation. Another insisted it was industry frustration finally boiling over. Another said it was simply internet exaggeration at its peak. But none of them could agree on a single version of reality. The result? Chaos multiplied. Then came the crossover nobody expected. Discussions started expanding beyond comedy and commentary circles into sports culture, with mentions of Stefon Diggs suddenly appearing in trending threads. Not because of direct involvement, but because users began comparing how quickly narratives can shift when public figures become part of viral cycles. At this point, the internet wasn't discussing one story anymore. It was discussing the nature of viral stories themselves. And that's when things got even more unstable. A major commentary page posted a cryptic message suggesting that this is only the beginning of the cycle, and within minutes, that post alone was screenshotted, reposted, and turned into hundreds of separate interpretations. Some saw it as warning. Some saw it as hype. Others saw it as confirmation that something bigger was coming. But no one had proof of anything. Just reactions. Just interpretations. Just noise. And yet, the noise kept growing. Fans started noticing how quickly opinions were changing depending on who posted first. If a big creator uploaded a breakdown, thousands would adopt that version instantly. If another creator contradicted it, the comment sections would instantly split into opposing camps. The internet was no longer a place of shared understanding. It had become fragmented realities competing for attention. Then something even more unusual happened. Short clips began circulating showing different creators reacting to the same moment, but interpreting it in completely opposite ways. One called it disrespect. Another called it misunderstood passion. Another called it industry frustration. And each version gathered millions of views. The contradiction itself became content. And that's when viewers started realizing something unsettling. The story was no longer about what actually happened. It was about what people believed happened. As the cycle continued, silence from the main voices only made things worse. No clarifications came. No joint explanations. No unified response. And in that vacuum, speculation grew stronger than facts. Every hour introduced a new theory. Every theory created new arguments. Every argument created new content. And the content fed back into the cycle again. By now, even casual viewers who had no idea about the original clips were being pulled into the situation through algorithm recommendations alone. The story had escaped its original context completely. And just when it felt like the internet might slow down for a moment, it didn't. A new wave of clips began trending again, pushing the entire conversation back into the spotlight, even stronger than before. And this time, viewers started asking a different question altogether. If everyone is reacting, everyone is analyzing, and everyone is interpreting differently, then who is actually in control of the story anymore? And that question didn't just sit there. It started spreading. Quietly at first, then everywhere. And what came next would push the entire situation into an even deeper level of confusion, where every new update only raised more questions than answers. As that question started spreading across every platform, the entire conversation stopped feeling like normal commentary and started feeling like a runaway system nobody could shut down. If everyone is reacting, everyone is analyzing, and everyone is interpreting differently, then who is actually in control of the story anymore? And that's exactly when the second wave hit. Because suddenly, the internet didn't just continue the discussion, it escalated it. New clips involving Joe Budden began circulating again, but this time they were being framed through completely different angles depending on who was posting them. One clip would be presented as proof of frustration, while another creator would label the exact same moment as media manipulation. The contradiction itself became the content. And that's when things started breaking apart. Threads involving Aries spears re-entered the conversation, not because of anything new being said, but because users began linking unrelated commentary moments together like a puzzle that may not have ever been meant to connect. Screenshots, timestamps, and selective edits started forming entire narratives that changed depending on who was interpreting them. Meanwhile, older media interviews connected to DJ Vlad resurfaced again, but this time they were being used as reference points in debates about how online discourse turns into viral conflict. Every platform had its own version of what was really happening, even though none of those versions were officially confirmed or verified. And just when it looked like the situation had already reached maximum chaos, it expanded again. A new layer of discussion emerged, pulling in unexpected comparisons involving Stefan Diggs, not because of direct involvement, but because users started using sports media cycles as an example of how quickly public narratives can spiral beyond control. Suddenly, this wasn't just about entertainment commentary anymore, it became a case study in viral culture itself. At the same time, reaction channels began multiplying. Every major commentary creator went live within hours of each other. Some tried breaking down what really happened. Others focused on why people are reacting so differently. But none of them had a unified explanation. Instead, each breakdown contradicted the last one, and the audience became more divided with every new upload. And that division became the fuel. Because once the audience splits, the content multiplies. And once content multiplies, the story stops belonging to the original moment and starts belonging to whoever explains it loudest. That's exactly what happened next. One viral commentator uploaded a breakdown claiming the situation had turned into algorithm-driven chaos, where the internet itself was rewarding exaggeration over accuracy. That video instantly gained traction, not because everyone agreed, but because it matched what people were already experiencing: confusion. But another creator immediately responded, calling that explanation overthinking, saying the situation was simply standard online beef amplified by audience engagement. Within hours, both videos had millions of views, and both comment sections turned into separate battlegrounds. And that's when something strange started happening. The same clips began getting re-uploaded with different captions depending on the creator's stance. A single facial expression from Joe Budden would be labeled emotional in one post, aggressive in another, and misunderstood in a third. The internet was no longer consuming content, it was reinterpreting reality frame by frame. Then came the turning point nobody noticed at first. People stopped asking what actually happened, and started asking what version of it they believed. That shift changed everything. Because once belief replaces facts in real time, the story stops evolving logically and starts evolving emotionally. And emotional evolution doesn't slow down, it accelerates. That's when the commentary cycle turned into a feedback loop. Clips created reactions. Reactions created more clips. More clips created stronger reactions. And the stronger reactions created even more distortion. And right in the middle of this loop, silence from the original voices only made the system more unstable. No one stepped in to reset the narrative. No clarification dropped. No unified explanation emerged. And in that silence, every theory started sounding equally possible to different groups of viewers. By now, the situation wasn't just trending. It was multiplying. Every refresh introduced a new angle. Every platform had a different dominant narrative. And every creator was unintentionally contributing to a story that no one fully controlled anymore. And then, just when the internet thought it had seen every possible version of the story, something unexpected started circulating in the background. A new wave of speculation, not about what was said, but about what was still not being shown yet. And that idea alone was enough to push the entire situation into its final stage of escalation, where the line between commentary, perception, and chaos started disappearing completely. As that idea started spreading across the internet, everything shifted into a completely different phase. Because now, it wasn't just about reacting to clips anymore. It was about the belief that there might still be something missing. Something not yet seen. Something still waiting to drop. And that uncertainty alone was enough to push the entire situation into its most unstable moment yet. The conversation involving Joe Budden had already evolved far beyond a single commentary moment. It had become a layered digital phenomenon where every new upload, every reaction, and every interpretation was feeding into a constantly growing cycle of speculation. Even old clips that had nothing to do with the current discussion were being pulled in, re-edited, and reframed as context. At this stage, nothing was neutral anymore. Every angle felt like a stance. Every stance felt like a conflict. And every conflict created another wave of content. Meanwhile, resurfaced discussions involving Aries spears continued to circulate, but now they weren't even being discussed in their original context. Instead, they were being used as comparison points in a much larger debate about how media personalities respond under pressure and how quickly online audiences turn commentary into controversy. At the same time, older interview segments tied to DJ Vlad were being analyzed frame by creators trying to connect unrelated dots. What once were normal interviews were now being treated like hidden archives, with viewers searching for meaning in tone shifts, pauses, and word choices that were never originally intended to carry that weight. And then, something even more unexpected happened. The sports world started getting pulled deeper into the conversation again, with mentions of Stefan Diggs resurfacing in comparison threads about how public figures in completely different industries can still get caught in similar viral cycles. The point wasn't connection, it was pattern recognition. The internet was trying to understand itself through repetition. But that attempt only made things more complicated. Because the more people tried to find patterns, the more patterns appeared. And the more patterns appeared, the more divided interpretations became. By now, reaction channels weren't just reacting anymore, they were competing. Competing for attention. competing for interpretation, competing for narrative dominance. Every creator believed they were explaining the real version of events, even though no single version could be verified or confirmed. And the audience, stuck in the middle, began shifting between perspectives depending on which video they watched last. That's when something subtle but important changed. The tone of the internet. Earlier, it was chaotic but engaged. Now it was chaotic but skeptical. People weren't just believing everything anymore, they were questioning everything, including the people they used to trust for explanations. Comment sections turned into debates not just about the topic, but about who was allowed to explain the topic. And that created another layer of conflict. Creators started responding to each other. Videos became indirect arguments. Breakdowns turned into rebuttals. And the cycle became self-sustaining. At this point, even casual viewers who had no prior interest in the situation were getting pulled in through recommendation feeds. The algorithm didn't distinguish between curiosity and confusion, it just amplified engagement. And engagement meant more exposure, which meant more confusion. But the most dangerous part wasn't the volume of content. It was the loss of shared understanding. Two people could watch the same clip and walk away with completely opposite conclusions. And both would feel equally correct. That's when the situation stopped being a discussion and started becoming fragmented reality. And yet, despite all of this, one thing remained consistent. Silence from the original source. No clarification. No reset. No definitive statement strong enough to override the noise. And in that silence, the internet did what it always does. It filled the gap. With theories. With interpretations. With assumptions. And with endless repetition of whatever gained the most attention. Then came the final shift. A new wave of posts began circulating, suggesting that the entire situation had already done its job, meaning it had moved beyond the original context entirely and become pure digital momentum. Not fact-driven, not source-driven, but engagement-driven. And that idea changed how people reacted to everything that followed. Because once users start believing a situation is driven by momentum instead of truth, they stop looking for answers and start looking for updates. The story becomes endless. Not because it is unresolved, but because it is constantly being refreshed. And that's where the internet now finds itself. Not at the end of a controversy, not at the resolution of a debate, but inside a continuous loop where every reaction creates another reaction, and every explanation becomes just another version of the story competing for attention. And somewhere inside all of that noise, one final question still remains unanswered. Is the internet reacting to the story, or is the story now reacting to the internet itself? Before this whole situation disappears into the next wave of internet chaos, understand one thing clearly. What you just witnessed is exactly how modern media cycles are born, grow, and explode without warning. From commentary clips involving Joe Budden to resurfaced debates around Aries spears and media discussions tied to DJ Vlad, everything you've seen here shows how fast narratives can multiply once the internet locks in. And the truth is, this cycle never really stops. It just moves on to the next clip, the next reaction, the next moment that gets taken out of context and turned into something bigger than it originally was. That's why staying updated matters, because by the time most people hear about it, the conversation has already changed shape again. So if you followed this breakdown till the end, don't just leave it here. Stay connected, because the next update, the next reaction, or the next viral clip could completely flip the direction of this entire story again within hours. Make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on, because in situations like this, timing is everything. The people who see it first always understand it best, and the people who arrive late are usually trying to catch up with a story that has already evolved. And now it's your turn. Drop your opinion in the comments. Do you think the internet is overreacting to commentary culture, or is this exactly how modern media is supposed to work? Every perspective matters here because this conversation isn't one-sided anymore. Stay tuned, because the next wave is always closer than it looks.